Hi everyone, it's Jennifer Zimmermann from ModernColoring.com. I am going to show you today how to render a sapphire cabochon stone. A cabochon is sort of a dome-shaped rounded stone. It's not faceted, so it has a slightly different look, and the reflections and the way the light shines through the stone is different than a stone that would be faceted. So I'm going to show you how to do it today pretty simply. We've already done pearls and amethysts if you've seen my other videos, so I'm going to show you how to do this one today. I am starting with the following pencils. I have all Prismacolor Premier pencils. Some of my pencils are older, so you'll see they're called Barrel, but I do have some newer ones in here too. This one is Light Blue 904, True Blue 903, Cobalt Blue 133, Violet Blue 933, Ultramarine Blue 902, and Black 935. I will also be using a colorless blender, most likely my Mono Zero pen. I'm sorry, eraser pen, a kneaded eraser if I need it, and a handheld pencil sharpener. Any of the items I'm showing you here can be found on ModernColoring.com under the shop tab where it says recommended products, and these are all items that I use personally. Okay, so here we go. Generally speaking, I like to work lightest to darkest. Sometimes I'll go back in with a lighter pencil just because it has more intensity, but I try not to go too far with my darks right off the bat, and I don't put too much pressure on my pencils until the very end, if at all. I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is my light blue, and I'm going to be creating this stone right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, if it will let me. There we go. And as you can see looking at these other stones, the light, we can tell the direction of the light because of where the highlight is. The highlight on both of these stones and on this stone right here, as you can see, is on the lower right-hand side. So this highlight is right here. That means that the light must be coming from this direction. When an object is hit by light and that object is translucent, which means somewhat see-through, not opaque, which means we can't see through it. When light hits an object that is translucent, it goes through one side and comes out the other side, which is why we see this sort of illuminated side, which has the most intense color. So keep that in mind when you are doing any of these stones. So I'm going to start this one right here. And my recommendation to you, as always, is to keep your pencil sharpened. I like to keep my T-Gall sharpener on the highest setting because I like a really long, sharp lead. If it is over-sharpened, meaning it is super pointy, you can always rub your pencil off on a little extra piece of paper somewhere and dull down the end just a little bit. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to map out the skeleton of where the colors are going to be going on this particular stone. Since I know that the highlight was over here on this one, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to take my lightest color and just kind of very, very lightly create a section that will run along the edge of this stone where I'm not going to have any color at all, so that paper will be left white. The other option is to go back into this later with acrylic or with a gel pen, and you can do that if you make a mistake as well. So again, I'm going to just leave this section here. I'm just outlining it lightly so you can see where I've placed it. Hopefully that makes sense. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put a little bend around here. This is what I call the belt usually of the stone. This works a little differently from a pearl like this one right here because there's not a real strong division between the two sides, but I just sort of put this here so I can eyeball what I'm doing. Okay, to begin, I am actually going to put the color on the lighter side, which is the more intense side that the light is actually coming through first with my lighter colors. And then this side, where the light is actually beginning to come through, I'm going to use my darker colors around the highlight to make that highlight pop. So here's what I do. Lightly, I'm going to fill in the majority of this section with my light blue 904 pencil. I can kind of go in circles or in directional strokes, meaning with the side of the object, like you see me doing right now. And I'm going to leave this section right here probably the lightest with very little pressure on it at all. And that's probably enough for starters. Now I'm going to move on to my next darkest pencil, which is my True Blue. And along the edges and the section that's going to kind of meet the darker side, I'm going to go and add a little bit of this color. But I want to keep it nicely blended. I don't want there to be any hard shifts in color or darkness. And that looks pretty good. I'm probably going to go back in and work into this a little bit more, just putting a very light coat back and forth of this color over that lightest area there. Now I'm going to work in my next pencil color, which is my cobalt blue. And my blue needs to be sharpened a little. And I'm going to add the darkness to the edges. And where this section kind of meets the darker section is where I'm going to be putting a lot of this blue and kind of blending it together with the first section of the lighter area, more intense color. I don't want to put too much pressure on this area here because I know I'm going to need to go over it with a lot of darkness. So, and I don't want the tooth of the paper, the texture of the paper, to get filled up with too much wax right off the bat. These are wax-based pencils. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more intensity right here, another coat. And now I'm going to move into my next darkest pencil, which is my violet blue. I'm not going to use a lot of violet blue, just a little bit, just to intensify a little bit of the color here. I'm kind of doing like the edges around here and here. Okay. And now my ultramarine blue is going to be my darkest blue on the dark side, which I'm going to add more. I shouldn't say the dark side because it's actually the side that the light is shining in on, but the darkest area surrounding the highlight. So up to the highlight, kind of fuzzy. I don't want to go super sharp. I'm going to add this blue. Now you'll notice that it looks pretty and it's starting to look translucent, but it's not deep enough. So I need to use black to achieve more darkness. So I'm going to go around the highlight, not too much pressure, to add some more darkness over here. And I'm just going to taper down that highlight a little bit. This is the darkest part of the whole image, what surrounds the highlight. I'm also going to take just a tiny little touch of black up around the edge, just to tie it together. And now I'm going to go back into my ultramarine and add more intensity to the color. And I'm going to sharpen my ultramarine a little bit more. I like it nice and sharp. I'm going to go around that highlight a little bit more. And at this point, if you want to, you can create a secondary little highlight here, a little ping of light like I did in some of the other ones above and around. And I'm going to add a little bit more of this ultramarine around the edges. Okay, now it's starting to look better. However, sapphires have a really intense blue when the light shines through. So I'm going to go back into my true blue and add a little bit more color, leaving this section sort of in the center of this part without too much. I'm really not hitting that very much. I'm almost leaving it white, but not quite white. And I'm going to go back into my cobalt and try to tie these two sides together a little better. So there's no strong lines of division between the areas. So kind of like that. And now I might just add a touch of this light blue in this area here, which the light blue isn't real intense, so I might go back and use my true blue just a little bit. Definitely around the edges. Like that. Now, if you'd like to, I do have one little spot here. Let's see if I can get it out. I'm using my Mono Zero eraser. Cleaned it first. See if I can get this little smudge out. I had a little black dot by accident. And you can see how lovely this device is. It helps me so much. I now have my colorless blender. I'm going to clean off the tip because it is a little dirty. And very carefully, without too much pressure, I'm going to go around and sort of directionally tie the parts together. You can skip this step if you don't have a colorless blender. It just helps to smooth the transitions a little bit. It may change the color of your pencil just a little bit, so beware. It usually darkens it just a bit. You can also use a lighter color to blend the two sides together if you wish to do that. I could go back in with my light blue and kind of go back and try to tie those areas together. And here's my cobalt. I'm just touching up the edge just a little. And that's it. That is how you create a sapphire cabochon. Hopefully that helps you just a little bit. And if you have not downloaded this particular page from ModernColoring.com, it is available. It's called the Down Under Mandala. And my coloring pages are currently $1.50 a download. They can be used for personal reasons. Thank you very much for joining me today.